Howdy. Welcome back to Dion Talk. I get that there is a lot of hype around the BRRRR method. Buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. I get it. The idea is to acquire cash flowing assets that, if everything goes well, don't cost you any money. However, there is a long list of reasons why I don't BRRRR. And a couple of those reasons might be reasons why you shouldn't BRRRR too. I reached financial independence by doing buy and hold investing, house hacking a couple of times, but buying small multifamily properties. And in about 10 years, even though I was a single parent with 3 kids starting out with a lot of bad debt, I was able to reach financial freedom and bad debt free. And I want to be really clear, I'm not saying the BRRRR method doesn't work. It's a powerful tool that's helped a lot of people reach financial independence, possibly sometimes even quicker than I did it. One of the reasons why the BRRRR method seems so popular is content creators that have a successful BRRRR get a lot of attention. Hardly anybody talks about the ones that didn't work out. We know that it can't always be puppies and kittens. So let me get into the reasons why I haven't done a BRRRR yet. I might someday, but not today. I think we might hear that twice today. First, why are we buying the property twice? Or have you not looked at it that way yet? The idea with the BRRRR method is that when you buy it the first time, the property wouldn't qualify for a regular loan. FHA, VA, conventional, they pretty much require a property to be live-in ready or at least safe. I had a loan delayed one time because the water heater didn't have the proper straps. A water heater that was there for over 20 years. They didn't care that it was old, they didn't want it replaced, they wanted straps put in, and that delayed my loan. And this is because the second letter of the BRRRR acronym is the first R, rehab. If a property needs to be rehabbed, then those traditional loans aren't going to work. So we have basically 3 options. There might be some other ones, but the 3 main ones are you save up your own money, you borrow money from friends or family, or you use a hard money loan. These 3 lending options are usually the barrier to entry for most people to getting into using the BRRRR method, at least effectively. Saving the money yourself for the entire price of the property and the rehab costs can take a long time. Borrowing money from friends or family, who has friends or family with a few $100,000 just laying around not being used? And then, who wants to go to Thanksgiving dinner while you still owe your aunt a bunch of money? And how does hard money even work? Hard money has worse fees, worse rates, and a strict timeline that's in the contract compared to traditional loans. Okay, let's say magically you figured it out and you got lending taken care of. Now we move on to the next step, the rehab, rent it out, refinance. I've helped a lot of people reach financial independence, and a lot of times in the beginning they bring up the BRRRR method. It seems to be something exciting and it has a catchy name. And a lot of people say, well, now that I've rented out the property, I can refinance it and pull all my money out because the rents raise the value of the property. That is not how any of this works. Collecting rents, or the amount of those rents, has almost no impact on the value of a property with 4 units or less. I can see where the confusion comes from because it's where the BRRRR method actually originated from. The first time I ever heard the BRRRR acronym used was by Brandon Turner of BiggerPockets. But before that, for decades, the way the BRRRR method has been used, without people knowing the name, was on multifamily properties, 5 units or more. The value of a multi-unit property is based on the NOI, the net operating income. If you can increase rents or lower expenses or do a mix of both, you increase your profit. More profit on a multifamily property means more value. I'm not saying collecting rents isn't important. It can have a huge impact on your debt-to-income ratio. It might take a year or 2 for that income to be reported on your taxes so that lenders can recognize it, and they'll recognize 75% of gross rents into your debt-to-income ratio. But those rents don't really have a big impact on the value of the property if there's 4 or less units, because small multifamily and single-family houses get their value from comparables. Agents will call these comps. Properties in the area that sold with the same number of bedrooms or the same size or as close as they can get will tell you the estimated value of the property. Estimating the ARV, or after repair value, is more about knowing the comparables in the area than anything to do with your upgrades or collecting rents. Think of it this way. If the rental income on your properties was the thing that determined its value, how much would your house be worth if you owned it, lived in it, and didn't collect any rent while you were living there? Okay, but again, let's say magically, poof, you figured out the rehab, now you're ready to refinance. People say, I get to pull the money out. Really what they're doing is adding a mortgage to the property to pay off the original source of the money, the rehab costs, and hopefully the holding costs that were associated with how long it took you to do that rehab. Adding a mortgage to a property doesn't always work out. Here's a really quick example. I have this house, it's paid off, it's rented out for $18.90 a month. Seems like if it's rented out for $18.90 a month and the house is paid off, owned free and clear like people like to say, then I'm making $1,890 a month.
Yes, but not today.
Figured he'd be back. Even if a property is paid off, you still have property taxes, insurance, CapEx, vacancy. So I'm cash flowing about $1,400 a month with this property. If I were to take out a mortgage based on its value, and I was to borrow 75% of its value on a new mortgage, then the property would only cost me $290 a month. Paying $290 a month is a lot different than collecting and keeping $1,400 a month. And everything I've been saying up until now is if things go well. Sometimes they don't. It isn't always puppies and kittens. What if you underestimate the rehab costs? Especially when you're starting out and we don't know how these things work. And it's really hard to rely on a contractor's estimate because that's just an estimate or a guesstimate. I mean, how many of us were expecting in the last year, because of everything going on, for prices of lumber and materials for building to double or triple in price? And then, what if you mess up the rehab timeline? Sometimes things pop up and make things take longer. And every month that you hold a property before you get it rented out or refinanced, you have more holding costs. And you have a timeline on repaying the loan. If it's your own money, yeah, you just have the holding costs. But who wants their friends or family delayed on when they get their money back? Who wants to have to deal with however the contract is written with the hard money lender based on whatever's actually going to happen to you based on not being able to stick to the timeline? And then there is my biggest problem with the BRRRR method. What if you can't refinance? What if at the exact right moment in time you get laid off or an emergency happens and you have to dip into your reserves so that when you go to qualify for that loan, you don't have the required reserves for a traditional loan? It's highly unlikely. I don't think we'd ever see it in our lifetimes. But what if something like a pandemic were to happen and lending fear goes through the roof and their criteria tighten up and you're not able to refinance? My goal is to help you reach financial independence. If you're a new investor, a lot of new investors come to me and they say they want to use the BRRRR method to get started in real estate. And I do understand the attraction. It seems like an investing strategy that doesn't require you to have a lot of money when you're starting out, or for a way to use your money over and over and over and get that money velocity that David Green from BiggerPockets talks about. But to me, for a newer investor, this seems like backwards thinking. In the beginning, when you have a lot to learn, like how do you find deals? How do you buy a property? How does lending work? How do you get tenants? How do you find a lease? All of these things that you need to figure out. Do you use a handyman? Do you know what the Thumbtack app is? Do you know how to run the numbers? While you're trying to figure that out, I don't think that's the best time to do something risky like using the BRRRR method. When starting out, a mistake with the BRRRR method can be an investing killer, delay you by years, or stop you from ever becoming an investor. And again, to be clear, I'm not saying don't use the BRRRR method. I'm saying it might not be the best strategy to start out with. And I do joke sometimes that my strategy works for me because I'm lazy. But really, my strategy works for me because it's simple. I was able to reach financial freedom when I had those first 7 units. I'm at 14 now and I make about 3 times off my rental profit than it costs me to live. But if I was using the BRRRR method, that financial freedom wouldn't have happened with 7 units. A lot of times when people do the BRRRR method, they talk about making $100 or $200 a door. I'm averaging $400 to $500 a door because I didn't do the BRRRR method. I did buy and hold. I purchased rent-ready or already occupied properties that needed almost no work. I saved up the down payments. It took a couple of years each time. But I have a higher cash flow, so less tenants to manage, less properties to manage. And now that I have the cash flowing assets to protect me, I can start to consider using the BRRRR method. But in an actual moment of transparency, I am kind of lazy. And learning how to do a rehab, which I've still never had to do, and figuring out the timeline and getting the ARV and taking all of the risks with the things that can go wrong with the BRRRR method, I'm pretty sure I'm going to stick with the system I know that works. Keep it simple. I hope I made it worth your time clicking on this video today. If you liked it, if you thought you got anything out of it, hit like, hit subscribe, share it with a friend. Until my next video, thanks for coming to my Dion Talk.
We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service.
I hope I made it worth your time clicking on this video today. Until my next video, thanks for coming to my Dion Talk. Are you biting me? I hope I made it worth your time clicking on this video today. Until my next video, thanks for coming to my Dion Talk. Ouch. Are you crazy?